return to the Grimm Chronicles, my weekly reading update chit chat. And what other booktubers do as Friday reads, I just do as my weekly chit chat about what I've been reading. And because it's a really cold day outside, I'm drinking hot tea. We have quite a bit to talk about, even though I don't think I finished anything. But I still have a lot to talk about, or sort of for different reasons. And so the first thing, and I don't know if I even mentioned these two last week. It may have been the week before. I had started two books that I actually then did not start and now have put aside, but I just want to it's just to prove that I haven't forgotten them. And the first one was one that I wanted to kind of read along while I'm reading the Recognisitons, and this is Housekeeping, which I know I will really enjoy. And I actually did start, that's right, I did start this, but then it got kind of plowed under from other things for other reasons. And so I'm putting it aside and we'll come back to it for sure. Hopefully not too far into the future. The other book that I have put aside for reasons is I had started because I had watched a video by Paula at Draw Your Story, and she was reading a Galeano, Eduardo Galeano, a different one. And so I just on a whim picked up Children of the Days, A Calendar of Human History as an ebook. And for me, it doesn't work as an ebook. So it's a little calendar. So it says it's similar to a medieval book of days. So every day of the year has an entry that focuses on an overlooked person, or all different types of people. I did start reading it. Little anecdotes from people who have been overlooked by history, or I think there are some that are the famous too. But it's sort of little snippets or anecdotes about these people for every day of the year. And it didn't work for me as an ebook. And so I put it on my list of books to buy soon. And I will buy it and then I'll start reading it again. Because it's sort of like a little, I'm going to read it over the course of a year because I'm good at that. Because that's how I read Uwe Jansson's big book. Anniversaries, which was also kind of set up as a daily entries of a diary of sorts, kind of, a fictional diary. So that's what I'm going to do with those two. So they are gone but not forgotten. And so the next thing we have to talk about is thanks to Rick. Now I have seen him pronounce his name as McDonnell as opposed to McDonnell. Rick McDonnell did the Booktubespin that a lot of us participated in. And of course, I just kind of randomly, and I put them into groups of 5, my 20 books. And I wasn't even thinking I just put them together. I wasn't thinking at all. I'm sure that's how most of us did it. And of course, the one that came out was 15, and that for me was in a Karenina. So, and I know last week I was looking around for something escapist to read alongside the Recognition, something light, something quick, something I can finish in a week. And of course, now I have to read Anna Karenina alongside other things. And because, I want to read it and I'm going to read it. But the thing is, both this one and my other big book that you've already seen a number of times and you will continue to see for many weeks, these two are going to take me weeks, if not months, to read. And so I'll try and not do, so I know some people don't want spoilers and all that stuff, and I understand that completely. You don't want to know too much about a book that you want to read. On the other hand, there is something to be said for giving you weekly updates on how things are going with a book, even if you try and not be too spoilery about it, but sort of my relationship to what I'm reading type. So that's what will happen. And I did start this. I'm only very, very early on. I'm on page 29, I think. And already I'm loving it. For me, the big names are not a problem. I'm just not, doesn't bother me that much. Some people... And there's a nice, in this edition, there's a listing of the people. The list of principal characters does help. Patronymics, it's just the way, and I did take a semester of Russian, even though I don't speak Russian, but, I'm familiar with the whole patronymic type thing. And what I haven't figured out is why, I guess they're nobility if they're prince and princesses. I'll have to figure that out. But what strikes me in the first 20 pages or so is how it's focused off from a sort of a male perspective of someone who's had an affair. And sort of is kind of rationalizing himself in a typical patriarchal, stupid man way, to be frank about it. And by stupid, I mean kind of thinking about how ugly his wife is after bearing him children, and she's an old hag of 30-something. Hello. But and yet I'm not sort of like, he's still kind of a funny character. I don't hate him, even though I do hate that stuff, of course. But so I guess he's gonna, and so it's very kind of the male perspective of things. And yet the novel is Anna Karenina, and I know that this is his sister, and we haven't met her yet. I haven't met her yet. I've met someone else connected to him, and who's in love with one of his in-laws, I think. So this family of women, and so I like how it's sort of the men interacting or thinking about the women's world, the women's way of living, and in a sort of interesting, not completely dismissive way, like the strangeness, the foreignness of their way they live, and they're obviously enamored with it, like they're under the spell of the feminine, and it's really well done, and I'm enjoying it. I'm only 20 pages in, and it will take me forever, and I think I'm going to love it. I really think I'm going to love it. I'm pretty sure. So that's Anna Karenina. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. No, truly, thank you. It's fine. That's the Booktubespin. And then we have spring, and even though I should be posting my Voxer reactions to the first sections, which I did really enjoy it. I liked it better than most of winter. It still has some of the issues that I'm not completely as enamored with her style as some of the people in the Voxer are, but it's good. I like it. And one reason I liked it, and I posted on Instagram, is that, so one of the little sort of themes is this funny fake movie that someone made about Rilke, Rainer Maria Rilke. Oh, I don't have the picture of him. The Austrian poet, famous poet who's sort of one of the favorites of even younger people, like this YouTuber I watch, Emmy, loves Rilke, and his poems are good. I like his poetry. I'm not a Rilke expert by any means, but they're not easy. They're not like straightforward. I mean, they're sort of a mixture. Oh, I just opened the one called A Black Cat, of which I have two, of course, as you know. Some of you know. Anyway, so yeah, he has these animal poems, and this is one about ice on a window. Anyway, he's good. He is very good, and I have a little I had a Christmas present, which is little snippets from his works day by day that I have in my bedroom. So anyway, so Rilke is supposedly met Catherine Mansfield. It's all fictional. It didn't really happen. And so, of course, I pulled down my copy of her short stories. I've read some of her stories, but I'm not familiar with her I mean, it's been a long time, basically, when I was a student of Britlit, even though, of course, she was from New Zealand. Aotearoa. So and she spent time in German-speaking areas. So a lot of there's a story here called, what's it called? Germans at Meat. There you go. So I might dip into some of these and just story by story give you updates. You know, this also would take me a while too to get through all of them. Yeah, so she's a great writer. I know that, great writer of short stories mainly, and died far too young. And so yeah, it was funny how this one took me to those two people who I do know a little bit about and love. And I already just generally said that I liked it. I liked how the focusing on those two people. There's so she often has an older and a younger person in dialogue, and sort of mentor-mentee type relationship. And this time it's an older woman and a younger man. And that's better for me, or at least this young man doesn't bug me as much as the young man in the other book did. And also the older woman, she's good too. I like her. She reminds me more of the older man in the first book, Autumn. Anyway, I like the characters a little bit better. And that's good. And so speaking of characters that we like or dislike, let's talk about, so I'm at about 200 recognitions. It's amazing. it's a book that you can't. I do have this website called, it's Footnotes for the Recognitions that is here somewhere on my Recognitions docs, a reader's guide to the Recognitions, and I do kind of look at it a lot. I mean, even though I said you can read it without, but there's so many references, and that it can be, I think for someone, it could be a little overwhelming. And so just to give you an example, and see, I read on my own and get some of them, and then I go to the things like, oh yeah, okay, sure. There's a lot that I miss too. So if I just take, just as a random example, this is the beginning of a new section, a new chapter, chapter 6, page 199. And so you go here to look at the, and the pages are a little bit different in this edition, but that's fine. Still close enough. So the epigraph of this chapter is from the Brothers Karamazov. So you read that, and then it gets into the actual chapter, and it starts out with a quote by Alexander Pope, the 18th century essayist, who I've never really, I don't know if I read any of his essays, but I know about him from being a student of English lit back in the day. Pope's Essay on Man. And yeah, we're already at 11 minutes. I don't want to get too long, but so it goes from Pope to the next one that I didn't get was a quote from T.S. Eliot's one of the quartets, the 4 quartets from the 3rd quartet, Burnt Norton. Is that one of the quartets? See, I'm not up on Eliot enough. And actually, I started reading them, and they're kind of good. Oh, I need to go read T.S. Eliot. And so we have that, and then we have lots of references to the fly in Greek mythology, and Argus, Io, the peacock's eye, the metamorphosis of Io, and Egypt, references to Aida, the opera. And then it kind of, like a fly itself, it hones in on the actual fly in the story being on the main person he's focusing on right now, the character of the story, which is Otto. And this fly is bothering Otto before he gets up. So he uses this fly as a way, and all these references. And there's more. Gluck, Beelzebub, which is still the fly stuff, I guess. And it's really well done. It's really well done, really entertaining. I really think it's a good book. I mean, it's really fun to read. We had this long sequence that did go on for quite a while of a crazy, crazy party where people are all kind of being wacky and inebriated and high probably too. And it made me think, I need to check, when is it all taking place? Like, I can't quite place this. It must be, I would say, I mean, it was written 1955, but I'll have to check when it was supposed to be taking place. Because when it started, it seemed earlier, but then I guess he grew up, the boy grew up, and so I can't place it exactly. I don't even want to say a decade. I'll come back to you on that. But anyway, it seems sort of definitely pre-Second World War to me. It seems almost like 20s or 30s, but maybe I'm wrong. Eliot, I have to look at where these references are coming from. And yeah, I'm still really enjoying it. And I said last time I'm aiming for 10 a day, which is working out quite well. And sometimes I even get a little bit more than 10 a day. It's still going to take me a long time to read, considering it has over 900 pages. And yeah, and I know that there is going to be a read along happening, and for this book, and I'll also be reading it. So I'll kind of like be a silent with reader. I think it's Noah at Everyone Who Reads Must Converse, and I think Mark Nash is doing this read along of Recognitions in March as part of the March of the Mammoths. I'm very not up on all the readathons, sorry. Yeah, so the new books, so adding more into the mix despite having 3 big reads going. So the new audiobook that I already started last week is the number 11 in the Patrick O'Brien books about seafaring and the British Navy and during the Napoleonic Wars. So Jack Aubrey and Stephen Maturin, and I'm at number 11. and that is called Treason's Harbor. And I know I'm going to like this one. The only one that I gave 4 instead of 5 stars was the one before last, which I just thought was a little bit boring, but this is going really well. I'm listening to it. The narrator is Patrick Tull, and I highly recommend listening to them because it would take me a long time to read. And the thing is, I had to add this book to Goodreads because it didn't have exactly this version with Patrick Tull as narrator, so I just added it in there. And annoyingly enough, I cannot update my reading because it doesn't really allow you to update for audio as easily as it does for ebooks or page normal books. Anyway, it's going really well, and I love it. I love it. They're in Malta, and there's a lot of spy stuff going on, and it's funny. It's just a good book. It's just a really good thing to listen to while you're doing your chores. And then the 2 most recent things, kind of jumping around a bit genre-wise, I started my Moomin book. And so it's a little overwhelming to sort of dive into the world of a comic book, but it's just also just a bunch of characters. And so as I found out, this is the comic strip, but there are also standalone little stories that I maybe want to get to. And the first comic is called, and hopefully, you know, when we come back next week, I'll know more about the Moomins, but this is Moomin and the Brigands, and it really starts out with Moomin. This Moomin, I don't know if this one has a special name or if it's just Moomin. I think it's a he, maybe, I don't know. He's very sort of, he lets people walk all over him a little bit, and so he has a bunch of these little creatures come and stay. They're sort of like they're Kafkaesque in that they are very demanding guests and they won't leave. And so then they leave. It's all kind of, it's hilarious and funny, but also kind of pertinent to people who have boundary issues, I guess. And then they leave, finally, he gets them to leave, and then it's kind of gone into trying to make money, I guess. I do love the illustrations, but I kind of want to get ones that have colored pictures too, because I love the colored stuff. Tove Jansson's a very interesting person, sort of Swedish-speaking Finnish person, part of the Swedish minority in Finland. And I'm just kind of excited to get into this world of the Moomins and find out who they all are and read their stories. And so it's a nice thing to just dip into, is something different, something completely different. And then just this morning I decided to I'm actually getting ahead of myself a little bit. So last week, sorry, we're at 17, I'll try and hurry up. Last week I said I wanted to find something sort of lighter to read, sort of escapist. I was thinking more fantasy, and then I watched someone's, I think it was a Remembered Reads announcement video about the Murder Month's read along, March Mysteries. So then I started, and I know that I think Sarah at Hardcover Hearts has read these, and a lot of other people have. They're very popular. The first Jessica Fellowes, the Mitford Murders one, and I guess she must be related to Downton Abbey person, who I actually am also related to, because I have connections, but that's neither here nor there. So how's she related to Julian Fellowes? Are they husband and wife? So, uncle Julian Fellowes, I found out. So it's her uncle is Julian Fellowes. And it was okay. The writing was adequate. I wasn't like put off by the terrible writing, as I sometimes am. But at the end of the sample, I was like, I think maybe these cozy mysteries that take place pre-war or in the Downton Abbey time are just not what I'm looking for right now at this moment. It just didn't wow me enough to actually want to go and purchase the book. And so instead, I jumped on my so-called reading club. So it's Bert from Pastori Time and Sean and Pastori Time are, I think, the hosts of this read-along where we're reading, and people decided what they were going to read, and they're reading Alice Hoffman, who I've never read but always kind of been interested in, her book called Second Nature. And so I started the sample this morning, and I liked it because it sort of, some of it takes place in Michigan, even though she says sort of the northern tip of Michigan. I'm like, well, do you mean the UP? This part or this part? Like this here or here? Probably up here where the bears are, because she mentions bears and traps and snow. And it made me sort of nostalgic for when we lived in Michigan, we actually took trips there, and I actually even almost got a job at Northern Michigan University, where they said that they've had snow in every month of the year. So I was kind of glad I didn't get that job, even though it would have been interesting to live in Marquette, Michigan. But anyway, so I liked it enough to go ahead and purchase that one, and I'm going to give that one a go. So that'll be my sort of escapist. I can't deal with the heavy stuff right now, or the big books right now. It's also good for me to have one book on my iPad to read. So I've started Alice Hoffman's Second Nature, and I'll try and get a picture to put right here somewhere. So yeah, 20 minutes. I just wanted to say that there's been a lot of buzz about sort of meta stuff concerning BookTube. So I saw the and I'm thinking I might make a response video. I'll siphon it off. But there was the Kit from Kit's World and Bob from The Font did the new booktuber struggles discussion, which led to Steve and Jared talking on Zoom, and then Kim did a response video, and it's all very interesting, you know, as we are all these tiny little booktubers who have subscriber numbers under, you know, 1,000, under 500. And for me, I have a sort of take two, because this is the second instance of my channel. And then this morning, Courtney Ferreter posted the length question, you know, what is the ideal length for videos? So I'm interested in all of this stuff to a certain degree. And so I might post my take on all of this. We'll see. It's interesting. Anyway, we're at 21 minutes. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thank you. Oh, and connected to that, though, even before there was, is it Kelly? Kelly, I think, at Books I'm Not Reading. She did the interesting video about commenters and people who comment. And see, that's also part of the mix. These people who we love because they're actually willing to engage with us in the comment section, which is what you live for as a booktuber, seriously. I mean, so, and I still people say that they're too afraid to comment because they think their comments will be seen as be judged, which is, you know, I imagine actually making booktube videos and, you know, the fear of being judged or how you'll be judged. And it's actually not bad at all. I mean, yeah. So please comment away in whatever form. I mean, it's whatever you do. I love anything. I will talk to you all soon. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.